It's really nice to see a lot of old and new friends, including people from government. I think Dr. Desai here was just telling Dr. Balasubramanian he's run Madhya Pradesh and then he ran the RERA for many years after that. So we were actually talking about Madhya Pradesh and how MP is taking a lead in trying to build capacities in the state government. So I'll be fairly quick. I mean, it's somewhat surprising sometimes for an institution that works on advanced research and practice to take such a strong position in capacity development as we do. So, IHS is now, 13, 14 years in, and very much from the beginning, we have been focused on trying to build state capacities in the places where they're the weakest. In fact, we actually started and have focused very strongly on the third tier. Because eventually when we're talking about citizen engagement, when we're talking about actually trying to make a difference, that's the space that neither gets the resources and we know the challenges with certainly the 74th and also the 73rd in terms of engaging with that. And of course, we worked across the system at sort of all levels. So the question, of course, for us was twofold. The first thing is, obviously, we have a large and complex state. In fact, now it's the largest state in the world, which is a democratic state, and it's very complicated, given the nature of our political economy, to actually build these capacities, because the expectations of citizens are very well ahead of what we already have in terms of, that's one thing. How do you actually build that within a democratic framework with all the contests that happen at different levels? The second thing is, because we're trying to create a new sort of cadre of professionals who are able to enable the transformation of the process of urbanization in India, it's incumbent on us to create a space within public institutions and private institutions where the people that we're working with can actually land. So in some senses, we're not a specialist institution. We train the system integrators in the system, and system integrators, like people in the All India Civil Services, are the people who bring things together. So for that to happen, the institutions in which they work in, even though they may have their own personal capacities, have to have the readiness to be able to accept them. So in a sense, we have a two-way view of looking at this. Can I have the slides, please? Let me just put them up. I'll just quickly run you through what we've done, and then I'll hand over to Dr. Balasubramanian. Just to give you a context. Thanks very much. Okay, yeah, full screen, please. So this is a very quick history. I'll take you, 3 or 4 minutes to it. So why did we set up this program? I kind of told you why that is. So we've grown exponentially over time. At the moment, we've touched about 12,000 odd people. The key idea, in some senses, and it's been a very interesting journey, is we walk across the country. Fine. So in some senses, when we're working with a joint secretary who runs a program in Delhi, sometimes, unless they're super active, my colleagues actually have a better sense of what's happening in the country, because we're working typically with 10, 15, sometimes 20 states in a program. So we work across a whole range of thematic areas, primarily, of course, dealing with urbanization, but it's not just urban stuff that we're dealing with. In fact, as you see in the next few slides, we now are increasingly working across rural and urban India. For us, that dichotomy doesn't actually make sense, especially in rapidly urbanizing states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Gujarat, Punjab, etc., plus states that have, primary sort of rural character, which we actually work on. So we, of course, work right across the government, all the way from, we were just talking about the fact that, paramilitary services just now have almost the same size as the army. We work very extensively with the Indian Army to help them manage their own cantonments and processes, all the way right through government, more than half a dozen sort of ministries and various state governments. So this gives you a sense of what the coverage is like. Here, the idea for us was, we are building a national institution here, is to reach out and understand what's happening. And that comes back, and through us, it comes back, for example, to a number of ministries in the government of India, and of course in state governments, how we can actually make a significant change. So when we were starting to work, and we've convened in this room a whole series of discussions about a year and a half ago on how we could transform the governance framework that's there. That was built on this kind of experience. So we work now in over 1,000 ULPs across the country, and of course in rural areas. So you can see here, if you add the All India services, and we've been training at Mussoorie now for the last 5 years. In fact, pretty much all of the training has been done for the IS from from level 1, which is probationers coming in, all the way to level 5 has been done by us. In fact, they're not here at the moment, but we have a set of probationers from the Indian Forest Service with us. So the Bharat Darshan comes here every year, so we're quite engaged with that. Plus, of course, state governments we work with quite strongly. So if you look at that, that's about 30-odd%. But the bulk of our focus has been on ULPs. And of course now on PRIs, because we're doing extensive work with one of the largest agencies working on Jal Jeevan, because we work across water in both urban and rural areas, because these things are integrated. They can't be separated. And of course, obviously, we work with private institutions. So we work across the country, pretty much every state. And of course, you can see the concentration. Obviously, we are significantly placed in southern India. You can see massive concentrations across the southern Indian states, but pretty much everywhere. I would say UP is important for us, but we'll build that out. So what do? We do three basic things. We work on policy and strategy in institutions and effecting change. So basically, how does one sort of implement and take forward institutional reforms from the conception all the way to the implementation? These are the really tough things. Many of us have done this over decades, over time. So how does one deal with institutional reform, whether it's in a state government, it's a parastatal or otherwise? And then, at the level of capacity building in the middle management layer, which is very important, how do you enable interdepartmental coordination? Because any intervention that's there, for example, at the moment, we're working extensively with trying to sort of help the city and the metro in Bangalore. So there's a new line that's being built up, which covers about a sixth of the city, right? So there we're effectively working across half a different departments. There's a development authority, a whole range of other parastatals, etc. So the coordination and integration between them becomes a real challenge, because again, government is not typically organized to do cross-cutting kind of work, and that's what we specialize in, really building a capacity development framework, supporting them, enabling negotiation between different departments. I mean, when we did for Karnataka many years ago, we did the state housing policy. We were meant to finish it in 3 months. It took us almost a year and a half just to coordinate between 6 departments to get them to agree. And then you move on to other things, So that's a core thing that we spend a lot of time. And then, of course, implementation. I mean, we support implementation at scale. At the moment, we run one of the largest sort of implementation programs in the country, potentially in the world, on water and sanitation, now covering pretty much all of Tamil Nadu. We're touching at the moment 50 million people. In 2 years' time, it will cover 25 million people across rural and urban Tamil Nadu. So when these things go to scale, and we're just starting an initiative where we will, in a sense, carpet bomb Tamil Nadu. We're going to be training 2,500 people across the entire state government in a whole range of things, both soft and hard skills. So you have to take a long view in this, and it's hard, it takes time. But when it actually works, you can see the dramatic influences that it can actually make, as far as that's concerned. So I'll stop there. I just wanted to give you a sense of what we do, because in some ways, I think people who work in the capacity development space are either very focused and narrow. You work in one particular area and you're very good at it, or you only do soft skills right across everything. Actually, the challenge is to bring that together. And in some senses, and I hope IIMs are actually doing work in this space in different places. We're able to encourage and open up the space a lot, and of course, a lot of private providers in this, because the connection between knowledge creation, practice, and capacity development are very tightly, at least in our experience, tightly linked. So, if you step out of this room and look at the wall on that side, we do some of the most cutting-edge research in this space, not only in the country, but in the world. But the research has no meaning if it is not applied in practice. And the reason that it's not applied in practice is because the capacities don't exist inside those institutions. So you're not bringing the right tools, you're not bringing the new ideas that are in place. And most important, you actually don't talk about your failures. So one of the core things that we really look at, including in our own work, is what doesn't work. It's politically incorrect not to talk about what doesn't work, but it's only from what doesn't work that you're actually able to build, whether it's in mission mode or it's in a reform process, you're actually able to build on. And I think institutions, both public and private in the country, have to be able to be open, and that's why this forum is, in a sense, both closed and open, to discuss what doesn't work, and hence how we've built on, because it's only from one's failures that one can really bring systemic change. So I'll sort of leave it that and request Dr. Balasubramanian to kind of give us a sense of what's happening with the Commission and at India at a high level. Thank you.